guys, Josh Satyad here in Singapore. Thank you so much for joining me back on it. You know what it is, Night Owl Podcast. So for those of you who are just joining me, thank you so much for popping by to listen in. I'm hoping I can give you a little bit of a nugget of wisdom or some kind of inspiration or give you some of the energy that I'm feeling right now so you can go off and implement in your own life and find something that you really truly love. A lot of times I love having conversations with people simply because I know I can ask a question that will get you thinking, and maybe that's all you needed for the day. Now, in that same vein though, I don't necessarily have people who are able to ask me really good questions. Maybe because, I don't know, maybe I'm overbearing in a conversation. Y'all have to tell me, right? But in the few rare occasions where someone questions me or challenges me, I really am grateful because I want to expand. I want to learn. While I am teaching you everything that I know, I want to go up to the next level too. I want to ascend. I want to evolve, so to speak. And so what I end up doing is, like you all know, right? Movies, TV shows, songs, books, podcasts, YouTube videos, posts on social media. I do it all, mostly because I am looking for the next thing that I don't know much about, the next thing I should be researching or understanding a little bit more of, because my whole life in the last 20 years has been about accumulating skill and experience. Why? Because you can't take that away from me. How about that? All right. So in that same vein, though, I have done some things that are a little bit hoarder-like, which I'm not so proud of. I've done things like hoard webinars and classes and downloads and PDFs and anything that's free that might be helpful to me. But my problem is I don't always go through the content. So I have tons and tons of stuff on my computer. I'm pretty sure like 85% of my computer's memory is hung up on stuff that I've downloaded from the internet that I thought would be helpful. I was going to keep it for a rainy day because maybe in 2 weeks' time I'd have to pay for it instead of getting it for free. So why not get it for free, right? I have a problem, you guys, okay? Just bear with me. The other thing is, though, on my phone, I have this lovely app, which is also a little bit of a trap. Well, two of them. Pinterest is one of my favorites because I can save ideas so that I can implement later. And the other one is Kindle. I'm going to tell you guys, I am a Kindle junkie. Let me explain how much of a junkie I am. I have tried my level best throughout my life, through all of my travels, to kind of keep my library up to date of books that I think would be really helpful, books that I think that I really need to keep so I could keep referring to them. A lot of them actually, to begin with, were cookbooks because I didn't know how to cook. And my mom didn't cook very often. And when she did cook, it was usually the same kinds of recipes. So, I mean, I know how to cook what she cooks, but I ended up being married into an African-American family. I didn't know anything about soul food and I had to learn. The first fiance that I was with, he was also African-American, but he really liked Western food in general. So I had to learn how to make steaks and you know, stir-fry vegetables and all that stuff. And it's not hard, it's not difficult, but I didn't know how, so I had to kind of figure it out. And a lot of times you'd try a couple recipes, they'd be terrible, 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 and I'd get told off, and eventually I just have to wing it. And I got to a point where I could kind of, you know, throw together a couple of ingredients and make it work for all intents and purposes. Shout out to George Foreman and his Foreman Grill, because that shit was freaking amazing. Anyway, back to the subject. I used to move around a lot. So the things that I used to replenish as soon as I moved to a new place and couldn't take all of my stuff with me, usually my music, and usually movies, and usually books. Those three things were exactly what I was trying to take with me everywhere I went. Now we moved countries, right? So a lot of times when we moved or immigrated, it was everything that we can pack into a suitcase. Mostly clothes, because guess what? Books and DVDs is not essential, and they weigh a ton. So I'd leave stuff everywhere. We left a whole encyclopedia version of the Amachitrakata books and legends in Australia. So I have no idea where they are. They're somewhere in Australia, okay? We had all kinds of books and laser discs. At one point, we had a laser disc collection, and I have no idea where they are. I think they're in Indonesia somewhere. When I was very, very young, when I was in London, my mom was actually sweet enough to let me have some vinyls. So I used to have the smaller, I think it was like 5-inch vinyls. I had a collection of like Belinda Carlisle and Tiffany, stuff like that. And I loved it. I felt really good about that. But then I had to leave them behind too. And now obviously my brother has my humongous collection of CDs because I couldn't take them with me. So he kind of like just absconded with those. Anyway, so the best thing I was able to do is get the digital version of books because I wasn't able to obviously ship all those books to me. Now, not all of the books that I have though on my Kindle are actually available on digital platforms. So I've been stuck trying to find some of those titles in book version. But I'll work on it. But I wanted to show you exactly how much of a junkie I am. I already told you about my computer being mostly full of things that I've downloaded from the internet that I thought would be helpful, like self-development, business savvy, coding, website, branding, like all that stuff. But the stuff that I have on my Kindle, gosh, it's a lot. So I'm going to tell you what my Kindle categories are at the moment. I have one for fiction that has about 41 books in it. There's a section of food, which is all cookbooks, about 16 different books. I have stuff that's very, very spiritual, like Law of Attraction, and then, stuff like Autobiography of a Yogi, which is Swami Yogananda. It is, oh my goodness, I can't even read right now. Paramahansa Yogananda, that was correct. And then The Golden Present by Swami Satchidananda, of course, in Miracles, stuff like that. And then, of course, my biggest category is Self-Purpose, which is a lot of your business mindset books, which has about 95 books in it. Now, as much as I've paid for all of these books, I haven't read all of them. And that's the part that I'm kind of kicking myself over at the moment, because I could definitely kill it in the reading game if I could just find the time to finish all of these things. I'm slowly discovering audiobooks. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari was one of the audiobooks that I read. The other one is oh goodness, it was a Paul Cello book. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but it was a really great book, and that was also an audio, and I was able to do that while I was cooking. I was doing meal prep one day that took me about 5 hours, and I sat through the whole thing. I stopped at bits and pieces halfway through so I could write down some of the notes that I really wanted to take away from the book itself, and I was able to cut through some of those concepts and read a full book. Well, okay, have it read to me while I was doing some other work. So as much as I do say that I get a lot of inspiration from all over, I kind of feel like I need to like drop back and punt a little bit and slow down and kind of go through a book instead. So Kindle junkie that I am, I need to become Kindle warrior instead and go through each of the books one by one as much as possible. But I also know in order to create a piece of content, I really need to fully understand the concept that was being explained in the book. A lot of times, once I finish the book, going back to pages that I've highlighted or, bookmarked or whatever is great, but I don't necessarily have that same feeling as I would if I had started from the beginning and reached that point. It's almost like that buildup is really necessary for me to get that one point so I can get the epiphany feeling and then be able to like explain what it is that I understand. But it's not always possible. So I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm trying to find a way so that I can at least read a section of the book and kind of find myself back in that place. It does help that I've read it once before, so when I go back to find those places that I've really bookmarked, quotes or whatever, that it's easier for me to get back into that space, that headspace, and explain to you what it is that I realized. But even then, it's going to take a lot of time. But what I'm telling you is I have no shortage of places to look for inspiration, and I'm actually really grateful for that. As much as I have hoarded all of these things, I know it's for a reason. And the knowledge that I would gain, the insight that I get, the wisdom that I develop can never be taken from me, and I generally try to apply it into my everyday life. I sometimes fail, I sometimes fall short, I sometimes forget, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to stop trying. And I honestly encourage you to look at the things that you've hoarded, the things that you've collected, the things that you've done across the span of your life, not in the last 10 years, but across the span of your life, because everything that turned your head at some point turned your head for a reason. And there's a really great quote that I saw this morning that I completely forgot about. I thought was really great. It's from Gary Vee, and it goes a little something like this. Let me see here. Right. You have to understand your own personal DNA. Don't do the things because I do them or Steve Jobs or Mark Cuban tried it. You need to know your personal brand and stay true to it, which means pay attention to the things that you've been doing all along, the things that you've been trying to figure out, the things that you've been attracted to, the things that you generally tend to waste time on, or so other people will say, because it's not a time waste. You're interested for a reason. You're able to hold your attention for a long period of time on that particular subject for a reason. Go explore that. So if you have any questions or concerns, please drop them in the comments below. I hope you understand what I mean by turning from a Kindle junkie into a Kindle warrior. But like I said, I hoard and I collect things, but it's all for a reason, because now I know I have the answer somewhere in my desktop or my phone. I just got to go find it. All right, you guys, I love you. I'll catch you again soon. Bye.